achieve success with Global.Media.com. Every step forward is a new beat to your drum. Achieve success with Global.Media.com. Then celebrate it with or without champagne.
Yay! Welcome, my friends. Great to be here. Great to have you join us as well. Those who are on my case are still on my case, but it's fine. I'll live. So welcome to being your authentic self in business. In his favorite room, in his signature room, the room I started with when I started doing live events in 2023. This room is my pride and joy. So I've been doing it for nearly a couple of years now, which is amazing, right? I think it's amazing. So before this room, I never spoke in public. I had a bad habit of always hiding away from public speaking. Once we created this room, I guess now the room, I just turned that off. What have I done that for? Anyway, this room essentially is, it's my playground. It's like a playground. It's my school, really. It's more like a school education setting for me, where we talk about business growth and achieving our potential. That's what this room is for. So when you look at business growth, I guess the reality is that business growth and successful business is down to 98% mindset and 2% technical skills. That's quite a harsh reality for me to understand at one time. But the long and short of it is that knowing those numbers means that I will tend to talk about mindset topics, because that's the fuel in our business growth fire, really. You can do all the right things, you can do as much of the right things as you like, but if you don't have the right mindset, you're in trouble, right? That's my reality. So I've been in business 10 years now, making people famous, as I call it. But then I guess I hit the wall. There's always walls in our lives, right? There's walls, barriers, where we can't move forward. And the only thing that moved me forward was discovering the power of mindset. More than discovering, learning about mindset from my coach, Donna Martin. She's the one that essentially helped me to understand some of the principles in mindfulness and mindset. And the result of my learning is what I share in this room, my friends. What I've learned is what I want people to know. Simply because mindset itself is it's all encompassing. So it's all involving. It involves all parts of my life, to be fair. Alas, the principles are only a few. There's only a few things to get right. And your life will change. My life certainly changed. Donna, my coach, it comes from the Proctor Gallagher School of Mindset. So we do spend time with those mindset resources that many people know well. Think and Grow Rich. The preachings of Earl Nightingale and people like that. So essentially, what I learn is what I try and impart in these rooms. Of course, I fully accept that I'm not a mindset coach. I never will be. Look at it more for the fact that they say if you learn something and you then teach it. If you teach it, then you learn it even more, right? That's what this room is based on. I may well misunderstand, misinterpret some of the concepts that I discuss in this room, but look at it as I'm talking as a student, as a learner. I'm not talking as an expert in the field. And that covers many topics, including today's topic. Now, I'm blessed to have two of my friends here on stage. Michael and Nikki are here. Of course, I see you in the audience. I see you, Miss Margaret, the one I call Superwoman, because she does amazing things. And there's only one her, right? But she does amazing things, events, supporting people. And that's one of my co-authors on that book you see behind me, Lessons to Learn from COVID-19. If you haven't read the book, please do read the book. So Margaret, do connect with her, especially if you like music, and you can definitely go along to her music shows. And often on Go Brunch, but she does stream them to LinkedIn as well now, so you can join her there. Liana, welcome as well. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you all. Look, if you're here, please drop us a comment, say hello, say hi. Tell us where you're joining us from. Say something, so I can see you're here, but I don't know who is here exactly. I don't know. LinkedIn will show us numbers. It will show us your name. The only way I'm going to know is you and welcome you properly is if you say something in the comments, which I'm praying you will do, right? If you've got questions, if you got thoughts, if you got ideas, then please put them in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Better still, please come on stage and share with us. Come on stage. The link is on the events page in the comments section. The link to the StreamYard Studio link is there. If you are struggling to find the link and you want me to send you the link, I can do that too. But you must put a comment in on the screen, on this comments feed, and say any link, please. I see you, Dr. Marcia. Welcome. Dr. Marcia is another one of my amazing co-authors on this Lessons to Learn from COVID-19. Like Margaret's story, Dr. Marcia's story is engaging, it's informative, it's eye-opening. So do connect with her. Of course, she's got her own leadership books as well. She's a Christian leadership coach. She does events on here. So she's got her own rooms. And they run on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But do connect with her and they go along for sure. What else do I see? Shegun, welcome. I see you, Shegun, from Nigeria. So I'm so glad you're here. So everyone else who's here, please do leave us a comment. And I say we do want to welcome you properly. Now, it's always an interesting conversation here, especially given I got my friends in the studio. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Oh, Sir Stanley's joined us as well. Sir Stanley Green. So Stanley, congratulations on your new Power Thinking app. So I know the app is now live. If you don't know who Stanley Green is, my friends, he runs Power Thinking, and he runs, but they're positive thinking mindset events is what Sir Stanley works on. But now his expertise is breaking mindset and mindfulness and positivity into bite-sized chunks. So do join Power Thinking. I'm a member because I guess I'm always keen to learn. I'm always keen to learn from the best as well. So now Sir Stanley has the Power Thinking app, which makes it even easier to disseminate these bite-sized chunks of learning that is shared. Sir Stanley has his rooms. They're on Zoom these days. So they're on Zoom. They're on phone conference, and I'm sure he's got I don't know if there's a live stream, but I know the Zoom calls and the phone conferences is definitely there. And there are some Learning Mondays now, where speakers get to share their expertise with the groups. So do connect with him. I'm so glad to see you, Sir Stanley. Thank you for being here. If anyone wants to come and share with us, please do. Don't be shy. I'd love to hear your voice. You can keep your camera off. You can keep your camera on. The important thing is that you share your insights. Thank you so much, anyone, to spend your time with us. I'm sure many more will join us as they do. Now, please do say something. Anyway, before I introduce the topic, maybe I should know. Let me introduce the topic, then I can give my amazing guests here the space to share their thoughts on the topic as well. So our topic today is something that bugs me. Habits. Look, as humans, the reality is we are the victims or the recipients in terms of the results of our habits. We are something like we're made up of our habits, right? Our habits determine who we are, what we do, almost maybe what we think, and the results we get. I say all that knowing that it could be the other way around, right? We have habits, things that we do in a certain way, which are influenced by what we think, what we feel, and what we believe. But essentially, what happens, I've learned, is that we do things almost always in an automatic way. And we almost don't even realize that we are automated in our way of doing, right? A way of being. And sometimes those automatic behaviors, actions, feelings, thoughts, they're good for us. Sometimes they're literally holding us back. So if we take Sir Stanley's topic, power thinking, he says which is not just he says that we know that as humans we have 60,000 thoughts a day, right? And most of those thoughts, my friends, we're caught in what I call a negative loop. We love to think negatively. And what a waste it is to have all those thoughts and get stuck in a negative loop. That's unhelpful, right? Well, I'm saying the way this works, we almost don't know we're doing it. We know we're doing it, we can't help ourselves. I've got a sign in front of me because I had to change that negative thinking, that negative, way of seeing the world. My sign says, "What emotion am I addicted to?" Yeah, it might sound like it's like a small thing, my friends, but I find like I had to admit one day, eventually, that you're stuck in negative thinking. You don't do power thinking most of the time. You're stuck in this ludicrous way of expecting the worst. Not realizing that by expecting the worst, I bring on the worst. I bring the worst out of people. So look, even on my journey as I am today, it's on my journey to be a better person, to improve my life, get better results, achieve the goals I want to achieve. I'm still prone to negative thinking. I had an episode last night, for example. So I'm doing work with a client. We agree a plan. We're delivering the plan. We're halfway through the plan. And suddenly the client stops talking, stops responding. I'm like, this has gone wrong. This always happens to me. So I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed. Right? I'm having I'm beating myself up thinking, how could this happen to me again? Why does this always happen to me? Then, lucky for me, I had a session with my coach. I ran impromptu session. She was like, okay, let's talk. Whatever that I can see is bothering you, let's talk. So I said, we talked. And she's like, okay, now what has happened? Document that first. Say what's happened. Say what you think has happened. And then begin to work out what could you have done differently in this situation to avoid what has happened. What did you do to cause it? I'm like, I haven't done anything to cause it. Everything was going so swimmingly. Everything was going well. I said, we're halfway through the plan, right? I would have known if this client was not the right client for me at the beginning. Many clients have been working together for months, since November, I think. So I'm saying I would have known then it wasn't the right client. I really would have known, but I didn't see this coming. I did really, but I didn't see it coming in the real sense of the word. So the client and I spoke yesterday afternoon. I thought we're in a happy place. 2 more steps to go, and then we are completing our work. She's like, okay, if you really believe it wasn't you, and there's nothing you can do differently, let it go. Put it down to learning. Put it down to these things happen. Don't beat yourself up over it. Don't sit there thinking negatively, because it affects the rest of your life, right? What emotions are addicted to negative thinking is what I'm trying to explain, my friends. But she was right. I sent my client a message saying, look, when you're ready, I'm here. We're a team on this, and let's get it done. That's how I left it. Lo and behold, a couple of hours later, I'm talking 5 a.m. my time in the UK. The client sends me a message saying, oh, look, can we meet now and do the next stage? Right. My point, my negative thinking could have kept, it could have ruined my day, number one. It could have kept me upset. But more importantly, it could have kept me in a negative spiral. I could have sent the client a message saying, you always do this to me. How dare you, right? But I didn't. I'm saying that my coach told me otherwise. Now, I learned to calm down and change my thinking. It's clearly, I hope you understand, it's a fundamental lesson I'm learning in that process. Stay positive, look on the good side, and expect the best of people. I'm glad to say me and the client met this afternoon. We've done step 3 and step 4. So everything's turned out as it should, right? Our thinking is probably one of the biggest bad habits that we have. I guess I would love to know from my guests in the studio, what, I see you, Cyrus. Now you flash your mic. Sorry, Cyrus. I do see you now. I saw you before. I don't know why they bring you up, right? Glad you're here, my friend. So for those who are here on stage, what are your worst habits? What are your bad habits? Don't tell us anything that's going to get you in prison, right? What habits would you want to change? And let's start there. Maybe you want to start with your good habits, the habits that move you towards your goal. For some good habits, now let me try that again. Nick and I were talking earlier, and I was saying to her, all right, some bad habits are good habits. I know what I just said, right? How can that be any? Right, here's the truth. There are some habits that we would like to change for whatever reason, right? But ultimately, doing them moves us towards our goal. I'll tell you mine. So my bad habit, that's a good habit really, is the fact that I'm up all hours. I'm working around the clock because I like to get stuff done, right? And in the real world, I get it. I know self-care is important. Yeah, I look after myself, right? If I'm tired, I go to sleep. Unless, of course, I've got clients' deadline to meet, in which case I can't sleep. So I might as well just carry on and meet the client's deadline, be done with it, right? So that's my example of a bad habit. That's a good habit. However, it's worth changing to be a better person, to be happier, to be healthier, to be freer. So I'll give my guests the chance to go where they want to go with my question. What bad habits, what good habits do you have that you're willing to share with us? Before I pass the mic to you, Nikki, let's welcome Lisa, the genius. Dr. Lisa sounds better. Lisa, the genius, but she is that person. The graduate here. You made my face.
Hi, Lisa.
Let me welcome Coach Ashif as well. Coach Ashif, one day you might join us on stage because now this is your topic for sure. I know it's your topic. But I do look forward to your genius that you share with us in the comments. So thank you for being here. Because I agree with you. Consequences by association is what habits are. But we'll come back to that point in a second, Coach. Nikki, the mic is yours. Share with us, please.
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
So, I would say that I have what I call transformative habits, right? I think I don't think, but one of my habits has always been being harder on myself, right, than really necessary, right? And tasks, overwhelming myself with tasks. And I have taken on the position to transform from allowing myself to be overwhelmed with tasks, right? And it's all by a choice. One of the benefits of being humans, I was thinking about this a few minutes ago, is that we have the ability to transform our lives as many times necessary in our lifetime. Unlike, many people compare themselves to the butterfly when it comes to transformation. We think about the butterfly because it starts out as a caterpillar, then it goes to the cocoon, and then it comes out after a season as one of the most beautiful things that we find in nature. But the caterpillar only goes through this transformation to a butterfly once. As human beings, we can do it over and over and over again. So I would say that one of my habits is always being willing to transform, no matter what.
Of course, I like that. I think we have to be willing to learn, improve, change, transform, as you say, Nikki. Otherwise, I would say stuck. Of course, it makes more sense if we have bad habits, or if we have habits that we want to change for the better, right? We have to be willing to change. We have to be willing to move forward. Angelica, I see you. Welcome, Angelica. You're working. Yeah, Miss Angelica. Working now. I know you know Miss Angelica. I got this another Miss Angelica. Angelica Corral. Miss Angelica in my world, right? But as you say, Angelica, working too hard. Yes, that's my idea of a habit that's bad. But it's good, right? It's good, but I don't want to say it's unsustainable, Angelica. I want to say, we must find options because we don't need to. Nikki told me this before we started the show, by the way. And I'm just thinking, what goodies are we sharing amongst ourselves that you're never going to hear? So I got to find a way to share it with you. She said, right, Emmy, have you thought about delegating? I'm like, yeah, of course I have. I delegate as best I can. But the reality, which I'm sure you're experiencing too, Angelica, is that delegation is a struggle in itself because you're relying on other human beings. Other human beings have a habit of letting us down. So what are we to do as entrepreneurs who are obsessed with delivering for our clients? If my contractor will not do what they're paid to do, I must do it myself, right? This happened to me at the weekend. Again, I explained all this to Nikki, so if you hear me twice, Nikki, I do apologize. So Cyrus knows this story as well. And so I got video maker who's meant to make videos for me for my clients' work. Video maker goes AWOL. What's any to do? And it's like, okay, I'm not gonna call the client and apologize for blowing their dreams, for blowing their project, right? So next thought was, how do I fix this? I'm gonna have to do it myself. That's how you end up working too hard. You take on many things that we probably shouldn't, is my point. Things that we can delegate. Well, unless we have the money to delegation costs money. Let's be sure. Employing people costs money, and we know employing contractors cost money. Yes, there's many ways that we can probably fund that, but we need to find better ways than working and overworking. Angelica, that's what I'm trying to make. Jeremy, I see you as well. Welcome. Look, there is a mountain to climb when it comes to delegating. A lot of people struggle delegating. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to suggest that we may want to look at that part of our lives and think, if I'm working too hard, what am I really doing? Is there a way to reduce the burden on me? The only way I can think of was build a team. Then we have to transform, as Nikki says, into being leaders of teams, and that's a transformation in itself, right? And that brings other habits that we might uncover or have to work on. It's such a minefield. Michael, I wonder what your take is. Let me do a proviso before I come to you, Michael.
Go
Look,
ahead and
I
put
don't know any of
Cyrus.
you enough to know you. I don't know anyone intimately enough to be able to comment on your habits. So please don't take to this conversation as if I'm having a go at anyone. I don't know enough people, and I don't know enough about you to have a go at you at all, right? But I will say, if the cap fits, my friends, wear it. If the cap fits, do something, right? You know, I'm talking generally. I'm probably talking more about me than about you. But if you see yourself in the conversation that we're having, yeah, I would say don't bury your head in the sand. Again, part of my conversation with Nikki earlier was this idea that, yeah, I tried to be that person, yeah, who learns and who does what I know has to be done. Again, part of my telling you the stories that I share in this room, the conversations we have in this room, is I can't expect you to listen to me if I keep burying my head in the sand. And if I know something has to be done, I would at least try to begin that process. I don't know whether you're the same. I don't know whether you have a different way of looking at issues and change in that sense. But if one person lives here today and thinks to themselves, "Oh, I could do one thing a bit differently," I'll take it. Enough from me, Michael. Please, what's your take on our topic, my friends? What are your habits that you're willing to share with us, if any?
All right. Uh, I do. Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Um, as Cyrus would say to everybody that's out there. That's what I would say. You know, yeah. So he's better than me in terms of greetings and everything. I really love what he does. I remember telling you guys that, um, my desire is to be like Cyrus. Yes, I'm really looking forward to be just like him. Yeah, I admire him. He's smart. He's energetic. He's really go-to person. Very eloquent. He loves music. Oh, that's the part that I like the most. And then he also creates it. That's the part I can't do, and that's the part that I want to incorporate into myself. So, yeah. Anyway, enough about Cyrus. Let's talk about me. Um, immediately, what comes to mind is snacking. I love snacking, but it's bad for me. It's really, really bad for me. Um, because I uh, the digestion system is supposed to operate for certain periods or hours in a day, and that's it. Once a day is fine for a human being, and then the rest of the time, don't eat anything, just drink stuff. Or, if you're going to snack on something, snack on fruits. But, I've got a bad habit where I love cookies, I love peanuts, I love cashew nuts. Somebody brought in donuts today. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, it's probably the first one to get in it and probably the last one to leave. I have a bad habit, snacking. Um, I'm trying very hard to make sure I don't do it. I have, and maybe you say it's made worse because of the fact that I have been dieting, and I've been, dieting pretty good to the extent that I'm meeting my goals. And that's one great thing that I do that's recently become very good for me. And and now I'm trying to incorporate it into a habit. So I guess that habit is the habit of snacking is hard to kill. So that's probably something I have difficulty with, but it is something that I'm advancing into, and one day I'll master, and and hopefully whatever else I jump onto I'll be successful at very very quickly and easily, just like Cyrus. Thank you. That's it.
I thank you, my friend. I thank you for your honesty as well. Yeah, of course, I've got a snack. I'm sure I've got a snacking issue too, but no, it's a snacking issue, Michael. I love eating. That's the thing, right? Is that a habit?
Yeah,
Maybe.
you and me, Annie. That is a habit, and I'm trying to get you to stop so that I can stop.
Look, I think it does raise a fundamental question, Michael, right? Where the habits come from. I think that we have to, I think we have to broach that topic. I'm sure I've got a video on that. I think I do. I got a couple of videos to show you, but no, I think we'll explore the points, Michael, where the habits come from. Because I think now my eating habits, it's not just a thing we do, Michael, right? I think there's more to it than that. That's what I'm learning. I guess what I haven't said so far is that much of what I'm trying to get across today is based on James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. Has anyone read that book? If
Oh,
you have,
that's a great book.
please
That's
put
a
in the
It's a
comments.
great book
beautiful, it's a
indeed.
beautiful book.
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I've read it last year. It's
It
beautiful.
is eye-opening, Nikki. It's eye-opening. It's truly eye-opening. And it makes you look at yourself in a different way altogether. I'm trying to learn from the book. So much of what we're talking about today really is about those developing atomic habits. I see your picture and I say it all, Cyrus, right? But thank you for that. So I'm going to come to you next. Let me welcome the American Supermom. The show. I was on your show yesterday, I think. I was on your show on Zonta TV. I think you had two ladies interviewing you, and I was like, wow, look at that. Yeah. For those that don't know me, my ultimate dream is to be on TV always. So the show has that channel that I'm just like, wow. She's the show. Look at her. Now she had the kids there as well. Or no, most of the 15, not all of them, most of them, right? So Stanley's read Atomic Habits. So I'm not surprised. No, I'm not surprised. But it is an eye opening. But if you haven't read it yet, my friends, you're gonna go have a look at it. You know, it will change how you see things entirely. I'm sure you agree with that, Cyrus. I'll come to you this show. Cyrus, what's your take on that topic, my friend? You know, what are your bad habits? What do you really want to change?
Hi everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are based. I hope you're wearing your lovely smile on your beautiful faces. Michael, you are a beautiful soul. Thank you so much for your kind words. For a second, I thought you were talking about a different person.
Sorry about that.
I thought you were talking about a different Cyrus for a second. You know what, Michael? I was talking to my family the other day about you, and I said to them, 2 years ago, I thought everyone on LinkedIn are really stuck up and they don't joke and they're really too serious, etc., etc. And then you proved to me that it is possible to be educated and down to earth at the same time. Okay, and that is one of the personality traits that I envied you for.
Cyrus,
and I'm working.
So sweet.
And I'm on my way. And I'm on my way to actually copy the way you are. So you know, there was a king called Cyrus in the land called Persia, and he invaded a lot of countries. Bible says so. You can check. His name was mentioned. Cyrus's name was mentioned
like
23
Cyrus.
times
That's
in the
real
Bible.
Bad Cyrus.
No, that's a good one. He liberated the Jews. He did good deeds, and he never when he invaded the country, he always stole their architecture. That's why his capital city was an eclectic amalgamation of all of the neighbors' architecture. So he was a clever guy. I can't say the same thing about myself. Different kind of Cyrus. So if anything, I've got my fair share of mistakes in life. So one of them. First of all, I want to say thank you, Annie, for this opportunity, and thank you, Narcissus, and I would like to thank Lachelle as well for what she's going to share with us. I've heard shares before. She's just phenomenal. I can't wait for you guys to listen to her after me. So, Narcissus, Michael, and Annie, thanks for your shares as well. So, I was going to say I used to be an idealist. Before 2019, and then in 2019, I felt like I needed to change and stopped being an idiot. Oh, sorry, an idealist, and so I almost always cared about being right. That was one of my awful habits, and I always wanted to be right. And when I listened, that changed my trajectory in life. When I listen to someone, I listen to react and respond. I didn't listen to understand, right? So that's one of the things that I've tried to change ever since. And whenever I made a mistake, I was so harsh on myself. And I'm only human. I'll make mistakes. But I was so harsh on myself. And whenever I made a mistake, I tried to find the root cause, because childhood habits, because parents instill that in you, right? They drill that in your skull. Someone's fault it was. That's why something bad happened, right? Then they should have taught me. Instead, they should have taught me, okay, things happen. SHIT happens. That's why they created nappies, etc., etc. So I always try to put that mistake on someone, on my past, on karma, on God, on childhood, on being poorly prepared. I always thought self-deprecating thoughts. And then I realized, I was like, hang on a minute, hang on. You expect this guy, Cyrus, to do all the great things for you. And you are you're slating the same guy, left, right, and center. What's going on? So be a little bit kinder. Be a little bit kinder to yourself. At the end of the day, you're just a human and you make mistakes, okay? And some people might say, you could be the result of a mistake yourself. So I'm not entirely sure. I need to double check with my parents. And also, no, I'm only joking. They're telling me I was planned. They love me. Probably that's why they're telling me that. So yeah, don't be too harsh on yourself. I stopped being too harsh on myself, and I started using that rule. You know, if it doesn't matter in 5 years, why should it matter now, right? And finally, I started implementing this new rule. If it's gone wrong, you learned something. All right. Don't go through the mourning process. You shouldn't be mourning. You should be celebrating. Right. It's gone wrong. You've learned something. If it's gone right, enjoy it whilst you can, because it stops being relevant in a few years' time. So whatever strategy you're applying, you're implementing in your life, your relationship, in business, or whatever, it stops being relevant soon. So enjoy it whilst you can, because soon you're gonna have to implement or devise or implement a new strategy. So I wish you guys a lovely evening and a beautiful smile on your face again. Thank you.
Well, Cyrus, I want to let you know that actually I'm an alien from the planet Verse. So if you want to be like me, I definitely would like a brother.
Michael, it's funny. It's funny you said. Let me tell you something. We always, as a species, right? We always looking for aliens on other planets, right? But have you noticed how fast we are progressing, and how close we are on our, how fast approaching we are on our way to become the aliens that we have envisaged for years and years. So in the last 10 years, we've made enough progress for 40, 50 years. And the artificial intelligence is propelling us forward. I think soon we're going to be so advanced as a species, we're going to be taking over other planets. And when I say soon, I'm talking about 500, 400, 500 years. It will happen.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely the plan. I mean, that's why we keep on having you watch all these sci-fi, so that we get you prepared and ready for this to happen.
I think that I like that way of looking at it, Cyrus. We are almost the aliens that we fear, right? The ones that go to other planets with devious plans, devious intentions, almost. I hear you loud and clear, my friend. Let's hope we're better than that as a species. Let's hope. Otherwise, I fear we'll find our match somewhere. We'll find, bigger, badder aliens than us. Who knows? Who knows? But look, I do appreciate your. I think, it's not perfectionism. It's just being harsh on ourselves. I guess, is it ego? Is it pride? It's all of those combined. But that wanting to always be right, want to do things right. It can take on, I guess, a weight on us that is unreasonable. And I'm sure all of us have been there. All of us who wasn't on stage, all of us in the audience. Jeremy says me too, for sure. And I'm sure he understands what we're talking about in that sense. There was the point you made in your share, Cyrus. You've been that way since you were a kid, and when you look back, that's where you could see the evidence of that characteristic, that habit in your childhood. And I think that's probably the source of many of our habits, my friends. It's ingrained in us, and it's been ingrained in us for a very long time. A very long time. And I guess we have to look at ourselves today and ask ourselves, is this helping me? Or is it holding me back? Again, I talked about bad habits that are good, or they can appear good. I think that's one of those, Cyrus, for sure. Where we want to do things right, so we'll push ourselves to the limit to get it right, and then we'll castigate ourselves when we don't get it right. It could help us achieve good things, but deep down, it's too much pressure on ourselves, especially when we are then castigating ourselves where we don't do perfectly every time. That's the dangers. But tonight, I appreciate your honesty, my friend. Thank you so much. It's a genius of an event host, marketer, business growth expert, and Mr. Americo is here. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Glad to see you. I think I'm on a show with Professor Roxanne on the 22nd. So we're going to talk about publishing and authors and all things about that. So do join us. Of course, do connect with him. I do my best to invite you to the show. So do connect with you. And I'm going to go to some of his shows. It does a show with Jay, the storytelling show with Jay as well. It does a few other shows in between. So do connect with him. Ari, the superstar from wheelchair to down floor in 21 days. But no, Ari is so much more than that. Though. Yeah, when you hear her speak, my friends, you see why I say that. Enthusiasm, energy, inspiration, everything that is good in life is Ari. Really, she's funny as well. Of course, she's hilariously funny, but she's very serious too. She's that perfect person. No pressure, Ari. But I do. I celebrate you being here. I really do. Thank you so much for joining us. And Sir Kenny, and I won't call him Sir Kenny. I won't call him Sir Kenny, really. I'll call him more Sugar Daddy Kenny. I always preface that with, it's not me calling him that. People call him that. And I don't know why they do. You have to join Noni's show, sing your heart out to know why he's called Sugar Daddy Kenny. He's that person as well, right? Thank you so much for joining us, Kenny. Coach Ashif, I'm coming to you next, Lachelle. Coach Ashif says, lions are born knowing they're predators. Antelopes understand they're the prey. Humans are one of the few creatures on earth given this choice. It's so true. Us. Man, this man comes up with genius every time. That's profound, right? It's a wild, wild world out there. That is so good, Coach Ashif. That is so good. So maybe that's where our dilemma starts. I said, the quote, Coach Ashif, is that we're given the choice. We have the choice, but guess what? We choose to stay stuck in some weird place when it comes to our habits and who we are. Look, I use those words deliberately because I'll show you, in a few minutes, how our habits are all about who we are really, who we are in our minds, in our souls, in our subconscious. That's what our habits are really. But so that is so profound, Coach Ashif. I'm stumped. I'm stumped in awe. But thank you so much for that. Such amazing words. Sherry, welcome. Sherilyn, thank you so much for joining us. I'm not sure I've seen you in my rooms before. I'll take it you're here. Hopefully we can connect. I'd love to know more about what you do. Thank you so much for being here. Michelle. I tell you, Michelle, I agree. Coach Ash's quotes, but his comments are normally eye-opening. So he's a mindset coach in a room who doesn't speak, but he speaks in the comments beautifully. So I'm glad you're here, of course, as well, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us. Kenny, so you invited me to this auspicious event today, not Jeremy. Yes, Kenny, I invited you. I saw your name on my list. I was like, yeah, send Kenny the message. Why not? You're here. That's more important, Kenny. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. I appreciate you. American Supermom, how are you doing?
Mom, please.
Who is that you, Lachelle?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfectly. There's someone.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly now. I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me?
I think it's like a delay or something.
Okay. That's fine.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfectly. Please share with us. What are your thoughts?
You can hear me perfectly?
Yes. Perfectly. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
What are your habits that you're willing to share with us, Michelle? Good or bad?
Okay. Well, first, I want to thank you for allowing me to be here. And thank you so much, Cyrus, for your kind words. I love this topic around habits because I believe that we can change our habits at any time. When we can look and see, hey, this isn't serving me, I can do something else. And it does take us to be intentional. So, one of the habits that I think that really helped me in business is being able to have conversations with people. I have a true story that happened here recently. I went to the Joyce Meyer conference, and she was there with John Maxwell. And before I left, I had to travel to South Carolina. I grabbed a book that was written by Joyce and one that was written by John Maxwell that I actually had in my own library. And I was like, just in case I run into him somewhere, during the conference, I'll have my books so I can get them signed. So I left with the intention of thinking that, I may encounter them. So the last day of the event, I went into the restroom, and it was the last session right before it was over. It was like a 3-day event. And I was washing my hands at the sink, and the sink next to me, the soap dispenser wasn't working. And so I moved over. So after I got done, the lady who was standing there could use mine. So I asked her, I said, so how are you enjoying the conference? And she's like, oh, it's good. I'm enjoying it. And I said, so where are you from? And she said, well, I work for the conference. And I said, oh, you do? Well, how long have you been working for them? Where do you live? And she says, well, I'm Joyce Meyer's daughter. And I said, no way. So she turned around, and I was like, oh my gosh, we got to get a picture. And she says, okay, but I think we probably should get out of the bathroom first. And so we both laughed. So we went out in the hallway, and my phone, the storage, didn't have enough storage to take the picture. So I was with a friend, and she came out of the restroom, and I said, can you take our picture? And she's like, my storage is full too. Um, so then Joyce's daughter, her name is Laura, pulls out her phone. She's like, I'll take the picture. So she got someone to take our picture, and she got my name and my number and texted to me. And that's one of the things that I tell people to do when you're networking is to get people's phone numbers. I do the same thing. I get their picture, and then I give them, text them the picture, because if you get their social media handles, not everybody is active on a lot of the social media platforms, maybe to the level that you are, or maybe you're not very active. And so it may be a month or 2 weeks before you get a chance to follow up if you only have their social media handle. So I just think when you are in a place to where you can be authentic and the person that you are all the time, you never have to prepare or feel like you have to get ready for the next thing that's going to help you level up your brand or business. You're just going to naturally be able to flow and walk into that. So, I tell people, do the things when it comes to habits that you're going to do, because we can come up with all these formulas and all these different things that other people do. But if we're not honest with ourselves to know our personality, if you're trying to get up at the crack of dawn and you don't get up early, try to do something on the level where you are until you get that muscle built, and then you can expand and do something different. So those are my thoughts on it. Thanks for allowing me to share. You're muted, Annie.
I lost myself in my tab. Sorry about that. No, thank you so much, Michelle. I think, of course, we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere. And the mistake I think that we make, Michelle, is very often we want to go from zero. We essentially want to almost turn ourselves on our heads, so to speak. So we are doing this thing too much, this bad habit too much, right? And rather than saying, okay, let me come in the middle and then go the other way to form a good habit, we try to just go from there to a great swing to the other side, the other extreme. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But I should explain why. I'm sure you see why in the videos. Taking little steps, as you said, Michelle, starting somewhere that's always the first step to changing things that we don't like. Peter, Popeye, I'm so glad you're here. As you know, Popeye, I'm sure most of us know the Flintstones. Is it Flintstones? I'm sure it was, right? Popeye is the muscle building person, and Peter is that person for sure.
When you have time, can I ask you a question?
Of course. Give me a second. Like Sheridan says, nothing like a picture, with toilet paper in the background. Yes, that's why I have to laugh. I see you too, William. Thank you for being here. William says, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I like that. Of course, I like that. No, that's excellent. Michael, please, what's your question? I'm going to play a video.
All
My
right.
first video of today.
Just to insert a juxtapoint to what Madame had been talking about earlier and what you just said, have you by any chance explored what never changes about you?
What never changes?
Hmm. Yeah.
No, I don't think there is I don't think there's anything. How to put it? I think Nikki started off saying we have to be open to transforming at all times and always. I think that's the world I live in. I think if something's not serving us, it's not serving me, then I'm willing to change it. Yes, it's not always easy. I'm saying, but we need to learn to do better. We need to learn to do different. And ultimately, I think your question is a good one because I think we need to be able to become different people to who we are today, right?
Yeah. I also think that we also need to explore what actually never changes about us.
What do you think never
Then
changes?
stem from there.
Do
I
you
don't know.
think there's anything that never
I don't know.
changes?
It was just just something that just came up in my mind, and I said, "What? How?" I thought it was a ridiculous thought, but it was not, as far as I'm concerned. I think it is clearly something that I would like to explore.
Yeah, So I'm wondering. I wonder what anyone else on stage thinks about Michael's question. Is there anything in us that never changes, that should never change, that ought never to change?
I think that is a very profound conversation because there are things that we're just innately designed to do because it's just our gift, our talent. And I know I can only speak from my own experience going through depression. A lot of that was around me trying to conform and be somebody that I'm not rather than embracing who I am. And the moment that I started embracing who I am, then that's when things change for me. So I think there's a lot to be said around being okay with some of the things, because once you learn that the reality is nothing is perfect, then you learn to navigate a lot easier around the things that you're naturally good at and the things that you're not good at. You can connect and collaborate with other people that might be gifted in that area that you might be deficient in, rather than spending hours and months and years trying to uh, level up in some areas and missing out on opportunities that your strengths could open doors for you with.
I like that. Hopefully, you like that too, Michael. And I think Coach Ashif says,
No,
uh,
that was very powerful.
I say the 1% better each day compounds. It really does. I'm going to show that in a video in a second, Coach Ashif, for sure, right? It's I suppose I'm still pondering because I think the person I am today Was I this person 4 years ago? No. Fundamentally, I don't think I am the person I was, right? Sherilyn, stop it. You're making me laugh too much. Your hair will always grow, and my teeth will always grow old. Sherilyn, I say that for sure. That's something that never stays the same. Toothache still, that keeps coming back. But that's all right. I get over that, right? So you can't change that. It may stop growing from your head, and now grow out of your chin, but hair will never stop growing. Sherilyn, when the hair starts growing out of your ears and your nose, that's when you know that nothing stays the same. We're always evolving, right? And I think as we get older, I think we learn more, Michael. We learn more. And I guess I'm acutely aware that I can read a book twice over, and the second time I'll see things I didn't see the first time. That's why I'm thinking I'm fundamentally different as a person to the person I was even yesterday, Michael. I've learned something, right? I've learned more things. I know more. I'm more self-aware. That's why we see more, tomorrow than we see today. Today, all we are is the best that we can be today. Tomorrow, we are better. So we see more, we can do more, we can think more, we can think better. That's my personal take. I want to know if Cyrus or Nikki have a point to make on this topic. Please, you feel free. So otherwise, I shall go ahead and show my first video. I guess this is my. Go on, Cyrus. Go for it.
Thank you. I was going to say, yeah, I agree with that point about hair growing out of your ear and nose and whatever. Yeah, that never stays the same. Ever since I hit 40, my wax consumption is more than Madame Tussauds wax museum. But anyway, the point I was gonna make is about Michael's profound question. That's one of the most fundamental questions that anything that never changes. Well, no, the only constant thing in life is change, right? Change is the only constant. So it keeps happening, and it depends. It depends on the so it depends where you are in life. Okay, so some things that were never meant to be changed are changing now, right? As an example, I was such a massive introvert, and I wouldn't sit down with people and exchange ideas. I would never ever do that because I was scared either they would misunderstand me or I would misunderstand them, and I was really scared of having difference of opinion with people, right? So because I hated confrontational situations, right? Then I realized how we look at things matters, and I stopped looking at those situations as confrontational. I started looking at them as sharing. So you shared something, I shared something, and then I realized, oh yeah, it is possible to have parallel thoughts and which can coexist in a parallel manner. So even if there is someone in this room who thinks it's not possible to change things, it is possible to change things. Whatever opinion are actually flowing through this conversation are respected, right? It depends how you look at it. So when you look at the newspapers and look at it, news outlets these days, you see some of them change the truth in a way that they want, and if they can do it, so can you. You can change your own truth and look at things. And if you want your habits to change, or you want things that never change, it's up to you. It's really down to you. If a news outlet says to everyone, oh, look at the image of this brave eagle that stopped a fish from drowning, saved a fish from drowning. No, a fish never drowns. So it depends how you look at depends how you look at things. Um, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Yeah, thank you.
Love that. I love that. Look, Michael, that's such a big question to throw in right now. It feels like the beginning. I know we're an hour in, so I know we're going towards the end more than the beginning. But it's a great question, and it still got me thinking.
I'm expecting a show out of it. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, no, you may well get one. Look, now, look, I think I want to acknowledge William's point. We must evolve. So, like me, we hope not. We hope that nothing stays the same. I guess the other, I might extend that a bit more and say, William, that look, we are all in a place today, right? If you are where you want to be, then by all means, keep doing what you're doing. Keep thinking what you're thinking. Keep seeing things the way you see them, as Cyrus just said, right? But if you desire change, the only way you're going to get to where you want to get to, have the life you want to live, and find the joy that you want to find, is if you change. Staying the same, it's not. I think ultimately that doesn't help us, because unless you are in your paradise, in your free, your life of joy. I could say freedom, but I could say many things. But saying if you're living your life with joy, then please stick at it. Then by all means, why change, right? But then even if you don't change, you die. As Sarah says, change is anything that's constant change is anything that is guaranteed in this world. We must keep changing. That's my take. I don't know. I could be wrong. I really could be wrong. William, as William says, what do you do in the meantime while you're waiting for the next chapter? Yeah, that's who we are today, right, William? I think that's who we are. We need to be willing to get to that next chapter for sure. Janice, welcome. I see you. Janice says, I've evolved tremendously in the past year. Janice, I'm with you entirely. I'm totally with you, right? I'm being, the person I am today. Person I was yesterday, person I was 2 days ago when I spoke to Cyrus is a different person you see here today. But there's a point to all of this. I think I think the real point is, who are you? That's what habits come from, and that's where change happens. Give me a chance to explain in the next few minutes, right? Professor Roxana says habits are automatic behaviors triggered by specific cues in their environment. Professor, you're ahead of me. You're ahead of the game today on the conversation for sure, right?
Let me ask you this though.
Please.
Because if you are, let's just make it simple. If I'm a tree, okay, I'm not going to change from being a tree. I may be a stronger tree, a taller tree. So my thoughts around this is, while we're looking at ourselves as changing or evolving, we're still the same person with the same purpose. However, our strengths may be more optimized over time. It's like if you learn a skill at the beginning, you're an amateur, but as time goes on, you get to mastery. So, are we really changing, or are we getting to be a better, stronger version of who we are? So that's my question.
Another fundamental, another deep question. That's my little brain, and I haven't got a smart answer either, Michelle. I think we're a mixture of both,
I
right?
love the way her mind works. That one,
we're
I love the way her mind works.
yeah, and I can hear where the show's going with it. So I don't know. I know. This is one I can say. I truly don't know. I think in the process of becoming stronger, better, faster, happier, we have to evolve fundamental parts of us. And I say that in relation to our conversation today, because habits, the things we do, the way we do them, sometimes they help us, sometimes they hold us back. Hence the conversation today, right? If they're holding us back, I think we need to change them. I think when maybe I might say at the heart of this conversation is self-awareness. I keep saying the same words for a reason. Who are you? And I think when we look at who we are, Lachelle, I think we find that we have to be a different person, to be the person, to live the life that we want to live, to attract the things we want to attract. Yes, like a tree. A tree doesn't change fundamentally, but no. How do we know that? For a tree in winter is different to the tree in summer. Look at the leaves. In summer and autumn, call it what you like, right? I'm saying, but even the trees have to move with the times, literally. They have to move with the wind. They have to move. But humans have a different characteristic, as Coach Ashif said earlier. We have this power of choice. We can choose. We're not trees, in the sense that if you are not happy with where you are, or what's happening to you, or what you're doing, what you're thinking, how life is, move. A tree can't move. We can. We must. Cyrus, I can see you flashing your mic away. Go on, please.
Thank you so much for such a beautiful question. I was going to say, strength, right, is such a versatile word, right? And being strong is so open to interpretation, right? Focusing, so I guess what I'm trying to say is trying to find our strengths is a very, very positive thing, but trying to constantly remain strong is something that can't be helpful to us when if we're playing the long game, right? So if I were to choose between two players, one very strong, one having lots of stamina, I would choose the player that has a longer stamina, because it takes them longer to burn out, right? So being strong sometimes can push us in realms that can be problematic for us in life. So as an example, when I lost a friend, or when I lost my dad, I was told to remain strong. Then I told to wiser friends of mine, and I was told, no, you need to speak about them. You need to share. And that creates resilience, which is very much higher form of strength. So, and in terms of the tree, as far as the tree is concerned, who cares if the tree was strong or not? If it eventually turns into a desk, right? So, the purpose is much in my personal view. I could be right, could be wrong. At the end of the day, I'm a human. I make mistakes. Please do correct me if you find me in the wrong. So at the end of the day, trying to manifest your potentials in life is much more important than remaining strong, because when you remain strong, it could be misconstrued as remaining strong. Being strong can be misconstrued as remaining strong. When you remain strong for a long period of time, you get that burnout feeling. That's how people feel that. Remember, you're vulnerable, you're human. And when you catch a cold, we all sneeze. It doesn't matter how strong we are. It doesn't matter if we have a napkin or not. It doesn't matter. What you have, what you equipped with, doesn't matter really. At the end of the day, we have our vulnerabilities, and being strong and remaining strong and things like that. It is something. It is one of those pressures that has been instilled in all of us, it is okay to be vulnerable, and it is okay to tap into those strengths that you have. So being vulnerable is one of those points of strength. I suppose that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
No, but I think even being vulnerable, I think even being strong, we have to acknowledge that there's always room for growth, for improvement. That's my take. Kenny, I agree with you. Kenny says, I'm always learning, growing, and developing to be a better version of myself for the betterment of humankind. That's why I say it as well, Kenny. That's my personal thought. But I think we can always improve. If we're honest with ourselves, back to the self-awareness thing, we can always do better. We can always do more. We can always be more impactful. Think better, deliver more, impact more, help more, be kinder. Now, these things are movements from who we are today, right? Sherilyn, of course, I love your comments. Sherilyn, the only difference between an introvert and extrovert is how you recharge your batteries. I've been in sales all my life, but I recharge my batteries by being at home with my kittens in a quiet environment. None of my clients would ever know I'm an introvert. I tell you, isn't that the truth, right? Again, is that a good habit or is that a bad habit? It's a good habit. I'm sure that helps you at work, right? But again, as Cyrus is saying, that can be, this source of almost harming ourselves, because we try to be the good thing, that takes a bit more. It takes energy. It takes a lot to keep it going, right? So America says no one's going to manifest change for you. We own our own narrative, and we can start a new chapter at any time. And that we must do, Mr. America, that we must do. Because as you say, habit stacking is a technique where you add a new habit to an existing one to make it easier to build new routines and behaviors. It takes conscious efforts, Coach Ashley, if I agree with you. Habit stacking, again, if you want to know more about that, go and look at James Clear's book. So I'm going to show you a couple of videos, and hopefully, I'll give you. I want to look at a couple of fundamental things, I suppose, in our conversation. America, that's Kenny again, not America. Jeremy says, choking with laughter, had a little fun. I wonder what you had fun about, Jeremy. Do share, come and share, please. Jay says, a habit indicates repetition, which leads to consistency. Yes, Jay. On a good day, a good habit is a good thing that we want to be consistent about. So one of my habits, which I'm consistent about, is being late. So that's me personally. There are many people, Jay, I see, they're consistently anxious, consistently fretting about everything. Consistency is good as long as it's a good habit you have, right? That's a good habit is something that moves you towards your goal. That is where you want consistency. You don't want consistency in a habit that's holding you back, because you're never going to move forward, right? It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. It's a personal take, of course, right? And as William says, you be you. Yeah, Coach, you're getting the idea. Self-awareness leads now plus mindfulness equals mindset, where we can be the source of what happens to us. That intentionality that Lachelle mentioned earlier. We are our own source creators. Let me show you a video, please, and then we'll continue the conversation. Nikki, you're way too quiet for my liking, but hopefully you're still there.
Tiny changes in our habits can change the trajectory of our lives in ways that we can't even notice until many years into the future looking back, in both good ways and bad. You are your habits. The power of atomic habits. A slight change in your daily habits can guide your life to a very different destination. Massive action versus 1% improvements. Far too often we convince ourselves that massive success is only possible through massive action in any goal we are pursuing. We expect ourselves to make some quantum leap or momentous improvement that will gain others' attention. However, it is the tiny improvements that aren't even noticeable at first that create incredible change. Let's look deeper into the math. 1% better every day for a year will compound to 37 times better. But 1% worse every day over a year will bring you close to zero. Your habits can compound against you in the form of things like stress or negative self-talk, or they can compound for you in the form of things like knowledge, productivity, skills, and relationships. Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations. The truth about progress. When you start any endeavor in your life, here is what you think should happen: linear progress. But here is what actually happens. Notice this section here in the beginning. Small changes in our progress are not even noticeable. James Clear refers to this part of the graph as the valley of disappointment. You've done so much, you've put in so much effort, and you can barely see any results. This is where most people fail and slip back into their old routines. The most powerful outcomes of any compounding process are delayed, so patience is required.
Isn't that the truth, right? I think how many people give up in the valley of disappointment? When we think nothing's happening, or I guess the more reality that we experience, which Sarah talked about earlier, I'm sure is a fact that we can feel like we're doing things wrong when we try to change. We feel like people are disappointed, people are laughing at us, people are, and they see through us. But I think the point is that to change anything, it's about taking small steps. As Cheryl mentioned that earlier, taking small steps, and just being that. Jace, this is where I come to your point. Consistency. Take those small steps and do them regularly. Do them every day. Of course, we live in a world where the great minds tell us if you do the same thing for 30 days, it becomes a habit. My question to you is, what are you doing for 30 days? What are you doing for 30 days? I think in the last 30 days, what are you really doing? And now, are they helping you? Are they hindering you? And I still maintain our biggest bad habit is the way we think, the things we think of. Whether you call it positivity, mindfulness, Stanley Green calls it power thinking. I'm saying whether you're doing any of that or whether you are living with a world of fear, of lack, of expecting the worst, which is a human problem, the human condition. I think that we can all change. Nikki, Cyrus, what's your take on the video? They both gone quiet.
So my take on the video is first, can I please say something about what Dr. Oksana mentioned earlier about the invisibility of those features of a habit. What you learn in this book, Atomic Habits, I read it last year, and it just improved me, and it helped me become a little bit more refined version of myself, and I got rid of some bad habits and created some good ones. And the biggest one is repetition. Just I wake up 3 hours before my shifts and do a little bit of learning, because what I learned last year has gone completely irrelevant. Okay, has become completely irrelevant now. Okay, and what I'm learning now is going to be irrelevant in 6 months. I promise you that, right? So, if your personality is like a puppet, who is the puppeteer? The invisible force that is pulling the strings. That is your habits. Nobody can see them. Nobody can feel them. Just like Robert Cialdini says, click and run. What does he mean? What he means is, it's like, sometimes your operating system is really heavy, and it's like your phone or your computer or your laptop can't even run a program because there's too many programs are happening in the background, right? So, and it's always like that. Why? Because when the system boots, those programs are in the background again and again and again until you get rid of them, right? So that's why Robert Cialdini says most of these habits are like programs in the background. Click and run. They get clicked on and they run in the background. So that's my take on Atomic Habits and the video you showed.
Yeah, so I said the funny thing is that we've got programs running all the time, and we've got loads of different programs running. I guess this is why I believe one of the steps to change our habits, Cyrus, is quieting the mind. When we talk about mindfulness, meditation comes into the equation, right? To quieten the mind. And maybe avoid the huge mistake of trying to change everything at once. That New Year's resolution problem that humanity has. On the 1st of January, well, everything must change. I'll be a different person. I'm going to start today. You watch. I'm going to get different results. I'm going to be everything I want to be this year. And then by January the 16th, that enthusiasm is out the window, right? There are too many things to change, and that's not how change happens. That's not how we change habits. We don't just. It's not because we're lazy. It's not because we're unmotivated. It's not because we don't want to do it. It's just that's not how human nature happens. You see. So Sean, thank you for joining us. I was on a show with Molly a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, and Sean was this man. He drops gems. He really does. I did lament, as I always do, that Sean. I never heard him speak, but when he speaks beautifully. He talks about I say the power of compounding rather than major shifts, because he knows. And so I'll say this about Sean as well. He has this habit. He has this way of doing it. It's a habit. It's a skill, really, of doing events where he's always engaging the audience in a way I've never seen before. He runs it as if it's a room full of people he can see. Always asking questions. He even does polls in his events. He's a genius. Sean, I'm so glad you're here. I think we all need to. I want to learn more about your technique for sure. So how you keep a room so lively. Again, Sean says, micro wins, 2-second rule, law of legacy. Sean, you need to come and explain it to us, my friend. Again, if you think, I think, my understanding, if you know it has to be done, count 1, 2, and just do it. Yeah, don't give ourselves time to procrastinate, time to, go a different way. Literally go for it. If you know it has to be done, go for it. What are you waiting for? Sean, I like that. I really love that.
Can I please add something else?
Please.
Recommending change, I think, is not something that people listen to. The habits that I'm changing, the habits I need to still to change, right? Need to change, have been formed throughout the years, right? You're not gonna come along and tell me such and such habit is bad and expect me to drop it. That's not gonna happen realistically. Even though, if you point something out, like the page that I had ages ago, and you ask me to close it. How long did it take me to close it? 15 minutes. How long did it take me before I came to the conclusion to actually close it? 3 months, because I was still thinking about what you told me and the logic behind closing that page. You remember that, the other page that I had, right? And you explained to me what the reasons were and what the logic was. So, in my view, the change happens when it happens at a secret moment. in every person's life. Let me tell you what's that secret moment. Nobody's going to talk about it, but yeah, I'm going to talk about it now. When the pain of not changing becomes greater and bigger than the pain of changing, you will change and you will shift that. You will make that change, right? As an example, if you find out by waking up 3 hours early every day, you will get 2 clients per month. You will do it, right? But if somebody talks to you about waking up 3 hours before the hour that you normally wake up, you won't do it because you haven't come to that conclusion, because the pain hasn't pushed you, because human beings are very, very curious beings. So basically, we are always moving in one of the 2 directions, either towards pleasure or away from pain. So we only make changes, apply changes in our habits when the pain of not changing becomes greater than the pain of change. Thank you.
I can understand that perfectly well, Cyrus. I think, that there comes that moment, that 0 moment where we must do something if we want the life we want, right? I guess the issue for me, Cyrus, is how do we don't sustain the change. Even when it hurts, we still carry on. That's my bugbear, right? So Sean, Sherilyn, I've sent you the link to your LinkedIn DM. Please check your DM. The StreamYard link is there. If you can join us and share some of your thoughts, we would love to learn from you, right? So Sean says we need to change the human operating system. I agree. Sean,
what a beautiful analogy.
No, and I know what he's saying is he's being very clear. Sean says we have to change our identity, and you'd be surprised. That's exactly what James Clear says in his book. That's how you maintain the change, Cyrus. We have to become a different person. Literally, it's not literally. We have to become a different person. Fact. End of. So Stanley, I think you have a point. Of course, you have a point, right? You say, it's when we need to change our self-talk. We need to change what we say to ourselves, how we explain what's happening to us, how we, I think that deep down, Sir Stanley, we need to change how we feel. We need to change what we believe. Fundamentally, we need to change from within to change on the outside, right?
Another question is,
go on, Sir.
Yeah, another question is, how did we become the current person that we are? Repetition.
Okay. No. But that repetition is based on beliefs that we've taken on, whether it's when we were kids, but somewhere along the journey, we've come to believe that this is a thing to do because this thing is right for me. Even when we find it's wrong, it's not working for us. We can't move on because we believe. Look, let me use a smoker, for example, Cyrus. A smoker smokes because, it helps me relax. And I love smoking. So even though they want to stop smoking, unless they're going to change that belief, smoking is killing me, and smoking is disgusting, there's nothing good about it. Until you get to that moment, which I think, is close to your pain moment, your moment of ultimate pain, right? We don't change. We need to change our thoughts about the situation. We need to change our experience of the situation. Whatever it is, when we do it, we have to accept that it's not good for us. It's not helping us. Things must be different. Look, rather than me waffling at you, let me show you another video. This one is about how do we actually change, right? How do we change our habits? And this is where I think the fundamental answers come from, Cyrus. It's only a minute.
Your videos are nice, Thank you.
I tell you, it's a show.
Just as atoms are the building blocks of molecules, atomic habits are the building blocks of remarkable results. There are 3 layers to behavior change. The first layer is changing outcomes, the result. Losing that weight, writing that book, or winning the season. The outcomes are what you get. The second layer is changing your process, what you do, the new workout routine, or developing a daily reading habit. And the third layer is changing your identity, what you believe, your worldviews, and how you think about yourself and others. Most people focus on the outcomes, but the best way to change your habits is by focusing on the person you want to become instead of the results that you want. The goal isn't to learn an instrument, it's to become a musician. The goal isn't to run a marathon, it's to become a runner. When something you want in your life becomes part of your identity, that is when your behaviors will start to naturally change. When you tell yourself and others, I'm a runner, you want to live up to that identity. Remind yourself, every time you do a workout, you are an athlete. Every time you write a line of code, you are a programmer. And each time you instruct your team, you are a leader. The habit loop. A habit is when something becomes...
Yeah, so now this is a lesson I learned, and and when I look at it, I'm like, it's so obvious, and there's truth in that. There's big truth, right? A year ago, a bit more than a year, so it's a year and a half ago, I had a business partner. My business was much different. I was a marketer. I had a business partner who did the publishing side of things, right? Because that was her thing. That wasn't my thing. I wasn't a publisher. I was just, a marketer. Welcome, Felipe. I see you, right? But there came a day when that relationship broke down. And I had a client in front of me say, "Any publish my book." I'm like, okay. From that day on, my friends, I've said to myself, and you've all heard me say it. I put it on everywhere I go. I'm a publisher now. That means I do that every day. I publish books every day. I learn how to publish books. Now today, I'm about to publish my first audiobook for a client. I'm saying, right, I've told myself I'm a publisher, so I must prove I'm a publisher. Yes, sometimes, let me be honest, some clients don't like my work. I can say that, but then it's part of my learning. It's part of my learning this process of changing the habits of who I was, right? To know that I'll do things not perfectly. All the things you said, Cyrus, I will learn. I will grow. I'll get better. Only if I stick to the line that I'm a publisher. If I ever change that, suddenly I will lose the interest. I will lose the need to be better at publishing, to dive more into to make the change I need to make. So that is my main takeaway from that book. Of course, there's many more. As you mentioned, idea stacking, or habit stacking, and so on. Look, I want to work on Sean. Sean, you've made my day. You've come on one of my stages. Wow, it's taken 3 years, right? Thank you so much, my friend. Talk to us.
Has it really been 3 years, Annie? Like, where did the time go?
Audio rooms. They went in the audio rooms, and the audio rooms left us.
Yes, that was a sad day.
Nah, I got over it very quickly. I could see the potential.
Yeah, no, I adapted too.
Yeah, great to have you on stage. Great to have you here.
I'm honored to be here, Annie. And I love the topic, obviously, because I just talked about it last week. Or was it this? Was it? Yeah. Anyway. Recently. And, what Cyrus said, the default mode of getting rid of a habit is when, as he said, the pain of not changing becomes greater than the pain of changing. But do we really want to wait for that day? I don't. I've been there. I went to the bottom and clawed my way back out. I don't want to do that again. But the 2-second rule comes from the SEALs and others of make it so easy to do the thing that it takes you less than 2 seconds to do it. Right? In contrast to, like, Mel Robbins teaches about the 5-second rule. If you can get it done in 5 seconds, do it. Don't make any excuses, just get it done. But this is like I was telling Amalia, I said, put your workout gear so you trip over it when you get out of bed. So there's no excuse. Because we have to take the friction away. Because our amygdala is that lower level reptile brain that's designed to protect us. It serves a purpose, and it hates accountability. It hates habits. It hates change. If you try to shove a new habit, that's why, as you said, Annie, by the middle of February, all the resolutions are the same as they are every year, but we keep making them.
Definitely true. So I like that 2-second rule. I suppose again it's realizing that the steps to that the first step is not necessarily anything other than just taking a step, right? Whatever that may be, make a call. And I say that you say puts your gear in a certain place. And so James Clear talks a lot about how our environment is part of the cues that gets us into trouble, that gets us repeating the same poor negative behaviors that we don't want to carry on. So when if the change that you make in that 2 seconds, is to find a different room in your house to do what you need to do. Create a space. For me, so I knew I was drinking not enough water. I know, I wasn't drinking. Yes, I was drinking alcohol most days, but I'd run out of time for that. Right now, but I got thirsty. Right, so I was thinking, right. My change was to buy a fridge. I decided to buy a fridge full of water, and the only thing in the fridge is water. I said that means I just drink water all day, right? That's that. If it's a call you have to make, if it's someone if it's something you have to move from your space, I think that all counts, right? So we're very good at thinking we need to make that big leap, that big visual demonstration. We don't. We just need to take. And maybe sometimes, Sean, I'm sure you agree. Sometimes that 2-second action is just deciding in our minds. I must do it differently. I must do this better. I must do something different, because doing the same is not the same. It's not going to work. We can change. We can make decisions, make changes in our minds just like that. But without that, nothing changes. That's a weird thing, Sean, right? It's a weird thing.
And it's the micro rewards, or the micro celebrating those micro wins. Like, you want to write a book, day one, celebrate you turned your computer, you opened your laptop and opened your document. Right? If I remember right, James Clear's writing method was to write, he started like one line at a time. I can't remember if it's James or the other habit author that did that. But I know one of them has this, like, they did one line at a time and they built from that. It got the momentum rolling. Right? Because you say, I did it. And then, right? Why is social media addictive? Because it gives us a dopamine hit, right? That happy chemical. Ooh, that felt nice. They liked my post. So we just do that with our habits. Like, I did it. I opened my laptop today. I typed 2 lines. I insert what you're trying to accomplish in a micro bite-size option, and get that dopamine chain going.
Yeah, for sure. Look, let me welcome the legend Jackie Hallberg. Thank you for joining us, Jackie. I keep getting my times wrong to come to your room. I will do better, Jackie. I try. Sherilyn, I don't know what's going wrong. Look, the link in your DM, I guess, to join the studio, you can click that link, but you need to enable your camera and or your microphone.
I tagged her in the comments as well. I posted it and tagged her.
You just click the link, then you come in the studio. I'll see you. And much as Sean, much as everyone here has done, right? I'll see you in the studio. I can bring you up. You can turn your camera off then if you want to, but you need to enable those, your camera and your microphone to join the studio in the first place. Felipe, thank you for joining us. Our leadership legends, everything that involves people at work. Felipe is the one in the know for sure. HR, management, leadership, recruitment, career development. He's the one who does the people stuff. I'm so glad you joined us, my friend. Of course, if you haven't been to his show with Melissa, but Felipe does many shows with many different people, right? I do connect with him and do go along to his show for his shows for sure. Thank you so much. My friends on stage. So what do you make of what Sean is sharing with us? That 2-second rule, for example. What'd you make of it? Would that work for you?
Is Narcisse available or Michael available?
No, you're muted, so it's fine.
I think Michael fell asleep.
No, he fell off. He fell off the stage.
I'm here. Was there? You asked the question.
Nikki, please. Of course, Nikki, go for it.
What was the question? I apologize. What was the question?
Right. As I said, Sean explained that literally, we can make a decision. We take a step towards changing our habits, in 2 seconds or less. He's saying let's use that 2-second rule to choose. I think number one, to make that change, and then to take a step, whatever that step may be.
Well, the first step could be something small, depending on what the goal or the task is. So let's say, for example, you need to exercise, right? And it seems like the results that you desire are going to cause you to they're going to need you to exercise or set up a program for maybe 5 days a week, right? And maybe an hour per workout. And if you're not exercising at all, and you try to take that on, it just like that right away, it's going to be so much easier to excuse yourself out of it, because you will start thinking of all the things that you need to do that you already have in your time, that's taking up your time, that's in your day. And it's going to seem like, okay, it's impossible to do this like this. So something that you can do is build yourself up with a small goal. Instead of taking on 5 days a week, start with 1 day a week. Instead of an hour, start with 30 minutes. If even 30 minutes seem difficult or challenging, because you're not even taking 30 minutes out of a day for just yourself, without exercise being involved. If you're already not accustomed to taking any time out of your day, then taking time out to exercise is going to be that much more complicated in your head. So start with maybe 15 minutes. And look, we have so much access to resources and assistance right here at our fingertips. Google, YouTube, 15-minute exercises. If you don't have a gym membership, or if that's not in your budget, 15-minute exercises for at home with no equipment. That's a way that you can take a step. Choose to take a step that allows you to take a step freely, without pressure, but with peace.
Yeah. Look, I think Sean and I agree with you entirely. And the thing is, I think 15 minutes is probably too long. As Sean said earlier, just get your gym gear, your exercise gear out, whatever. Your trainers, your shorts, your top. I'm saying, and put it on the side. That's a start. If you don't do that in the first place, doing 15 minutes sounds like a mountain, right? Just do that.
Yeah.
And as Sean was saying, when you do that little thing, that first step, turn your computer on if you're going to write a book, celebrate that part. Never mind whether you have to write a line or not. Celebrate that on day one. Day two, aim to do a bit more. So day two, you turn the computer on and you actually open Word. Oh wow! Now you're going. It feels like a slow process, but that is how change happens. Coach Ashif says, Sean, micro rewards are the way forward. They keep you motivated, right? Little progress a day adds up to get to greater results. For sure.
Absolutely. And by the way, please excuse me. I did not mean to neglect the politeness. Hello, Sean.
Yeah, you're far too kind. You're far too kind. Sean, please feel free.
Pleasure to meet you, Narcisse. Did I say it
Narciss.
right?
Narciss.
Narciss. Okay.
I just call her Nikki, which her name has Nikki in the middle.
Nikki.
Yes, Nikki will suffice, and thank you.
It's much
Yes.
easier. Go on, Sean.
As you guys were talking, I was thinking about when we're tiny babies and we're starting to walk. Do babies think like, oh, I need to go 10 steps to get over there? No, they think about one step. Oh, they did one step. Whoops, I fell down. Okay, get back up. Take one step, right? It's why did we forget this? It's
Yes,
simple and
yes, great analogy.
right? And as well as setting up the environment, your environment is your competitor or your co-founder. Don't you want to recruit? Get those 2-second wins, set yourself up for success, make it easy, celebrate them like, hey, I put my running shoes on and I walked out the front door, stretched and came back in. Good job. Pat yourself on the back. It's okay. Like we have this belief like I shouldn't recognize myself. As Cyrus was saying, our bad habits didn't appear in one day. They're not going to disappear in one day. Now, there are shortcuts. I've learned a lot of shortcuts to get into the programming more in depth instead of outside and having to do it the hard way. But there is power in that. But accountability, right? Nikki, you were talking about going to the gym. Well, if you say, oh, I'm going to go to the gym today, and you're like, oh, I'm tired, I don't feel like it, the traffic's bad, whatever. But if you got somebody waiting for you and like, hey, Nikki, where are you? Like, I'm waiting at the gym. We're going to be more inclined to go do the thing, right? If somebody's checking in on us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What about exercise? Cyrus, if you want to come back on this, it's nice. I will give you the mic. I know you were trying to speak before.
Yeah, sure.
Michael, don't sit there quietly, please. Do say something, right? So on the exercise thing, I think that's so interesting, right? It's because again, I love reality. I love when reality matches the theory. I think all our talk about mindset and mindfulness, I think it always comes down to, do you believe? Do you truly believe? And with belief comes feeling. What are you feeling as you're doing what you need to do? So as you're making the change, in other words, as you're embarking on your exercise journey, are you saying, "Oh, I hate this. It's the worst thing ever." And do you believe that you're actually going to get there in the end? Do you believe that you're going to become an athlete? If I use James Clear's an example, right? For me, exercise. I did exercise for years. When I was younger, of course, I played football, so that was easier. When I got to a certain age, and I was just, from my 30s, I was just growing and growing and growing. I got a personal trainer. He came around once a week, my hour. I was like, I'm growing more after you go. What's the point paying you? It's not working, right? It's taken me this long, literally this long. And I said today, and I go, my son has grown from a kid to a 16-year-old. Lucky for me, my son of mine, he's a bodybuilding person. Again, 2 years ago, he couldn't do a press up, a push up, which that's what you call it, right? It was too skinny and far too weak, and I used to just laugh at him trying to do a pull up, push up. But today, he goes to the gym every day, so I don't have to. But what he's done for me, though, which I do tell him, I give him credit for, and a lot of people, anyone who sees me in person gives him credit for, is the fact that I'm healthier. And the way he's done it is by literally before I would do the whole 3 hours of exercise twice a week, 3 times a week, and that just eating my time, and I hated it. I really hated it. I couldn't stand it because I had to work. Well, he said, no, don't do that, Dad. Just don't do that, right? Stop. Just stop. All you have to do is do these 3 sets of stuff. There's curls, there's there's I don't know what rows, and then there's hammer things, which it all hurts. Don't get me wrong, but he's saying that stop trying to exhaust yourself. Just do 2 reps of those things each, and then call it a day. Tomorrow, do something else. Tomorrow, do some dips. Do another exercise. But don't do this. I'm going to do 3 hours of anything. And you know what? That's shortening the routine, making it simpler, making it shorter. You have to be doing it. So I was here last night. So I'm looking at my watch. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, you know what? It might hurt, but let me just go and do it because I can do it. It's not going to be. It's not that much really. In half an hour, I'm done. I want to go and do it. So before, I would have to think 10 times over about getting to the gym, all that hassle, which I just hate, right? But I think we can find a way to take the steps Sean's talking about, the small steps. We don't need to make the massive change that we seem to think we do. We don't need to. No one's ever done that. That's not how it works. Is the point, right, Sean? Sherilyn talked about now doing a marathon, for example. When she done a marathon training program for a club, I was held accountable. Even if it was -32 in Minnesota. Oh, blimey, that's how to cover, right? I had to run 23 miles. Never done that in my life. Sherilyn, that's not my thing, right? But I had to be held accountable, and I showed up. Having someone there definitely helps. I'm sure we'll agree, right? Kemi, you've turned up. Kemi, it's been Kemi forever. You made my day, Kemi, seeing you here. Sean and Kemi made my day today. Kemi, time. I'm so glad you're here. Go on, share. Go on, please. Let me stop talking.
Eddie, may I please propose 3 other questions?
Of course.
Okay, so I would like to propose these 3 questions. The first one being, ask yourself, do you deserve the desired results? Second question, how bad do you want the desired results? Third question, if you believe that you both desire the results and you want the results bad enough, are you willing to do whatever it takes to obtain those desired results?
Yeah. Look, very fair questions, and I think we have to ask ourselves those questions. Now, to me, what I hear you say is the power of what we're saying to ourselves in our process. Of course, now we mentioned earlier that you're always thinking something, right? And if you to have real change, Nikki, I think we have to answer yes to to those 3 questions. I want the results. I'm willing to do what it takes, and I'll do as long as I have to, right? If we don't say those, it can feel like a big, momentous decision. I think part of me thinks we can just. And I think James Clear says this as well in his book, right? Rather than thinking of the outcome, just think of the just follow the process, step by step. I will do this. Now, James Clear, again, it talks about using very clear steps in our process based on time and location. I will do this at this time in this place, right? Now rather than saying I want to lose 10 stone, Michael, I know, has an exercise routine and his eating routine. And so he's going the way that I think most that change really happens, which is I will do 25 minutes on my exercise board, on a Monday, on a Wednesday, and on a Friday. Even if he only does one, it's fine. But at least he has a clarity of mind about what he wants, what he needs to do. And in time that will begin to get the habits that he needs, and the habit being the system, right? The habit is the repetitive behavior that will bring about the results you're talking about, Nikki. I don't think we can get there without giving ourselves that. And it's such a weird no. On the one hand, we need to think about the goal. Of course we do. But then don't think about the goal. Think about who you want to be, as Jim Clare says in the video, right? I want to be an athlete. I want to be a runner. I want to be a gym person. Think of that first. Make that your focus. And then create a system to get there. Create a series of behaviors on the schedule that will get you there, on the repetitive behavior schedule. The more you do that, the more you head towards that goal. And as you head towards that goal, it becomes more comfortable for you as a person to take the actions that you need to take. Essentially, what you do is create a new habit to replace the old one. Again, many people try to change a bad habit and just change a habit and leave it there. Yeah, of course, sure. Please talk to us.
Well, I was going to share a lot of times we look at let me just get rid of the bad habit. I cued in when you said it, Annie, because if you don't replace it with a positive habit, that negative habit will come back twice as strong. It'll be harder the next time you want to kick it. I did that with smoking. I quit for 30 days on a bet. The guy bet me $20 that I couldn't last 30 days. I lasted 30 days, collected my $20, and went and bought a pack of cigarettes.
You're a winner, Sean. You're a winner. That's why, right? Are you really? I hear you say. But
yeah, and I really appreciated what you said, Annie, when you were talking. I don't remember exactly how you said it, but you said, I am something, a publisher, a book publisher. But there was more that you said. And I was writing the identity statement. Can you read it? Is it clear?
It's changing our identity, right, Sean?
Right. You tell yourself, I am the type of the person who cares about my health. I am the type of person who deserves success in whatever I'm endeavoring in. When Nikki asked, ask yourself to deserve it, that's a trick question. A lot of people would say, well, I'm here to say, yes, you do, even if you don't believe it. And the other question I find is, does it align with your values, your who you are? The real you. And is the want? My son says, "Oh, we live in Guatemala, which is a developing country, and the roads are horrible, and there's massive speed bumps on the highway. We're not talking parking lots. You're driving down 50 kilometers an hour, and there's a speed bump." He's like, "I want a Lambo." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, we're not in the right place for a Lambo. Give me a Porsche Cayenne." Okay, we got a deal. That makes more sense. So, is the desire, is it truly yours, or is it something we think we should have? Right? Like success. I'm pretty dang happy living in Guatemala with my 7-year-old kid and having the freedom to work when I want. I'm not rich. I'm driving a 1999 Ford pickup, but it works. It gets me where I need to go.
I think this is where I talk about the feeling you have as you're doing. I don't know whether it's a feeling, whether it's a conversation with ourselves that we choose to use certain words. Sarah, I think, I think we need. I think our self-talk has to be positive beyond reasonable, almost, right? And maybe that comes from the celebration you mentioned, Sean, after taking your small steps. But I think that we need to truly convince ourselves somehow that we love this change. We love what we're doing, and that this change is a path to the happy self that we want to be, the better person, the better self, the better results we want to achieve, right? If we're doing, if we're making a change almost reluctantly, that's not going to last. We really must convince ourselves that this change is one that we want to make, and we're enjoying making it. Now, maybe there's things that we need to put in place to celebrate, say, our wins, but we must truly, we must feel in our soul that we want to do this. Say again, no one knows the work that we do when there's no one looking, and like I said, that's where real change comes from, right? And to do that, you have to truly find some joy in doing this thing, whatever this thing is. Look, even the one we get, like I said, anything we do could be up for change, from bedtimes to eating to what we do to even Sean mentioned smoking, for example. I'm saying, we could change all of these, any of these, some of these, to be happier, better, and to be closer to our goal. But we need to celebrate the process, almost enjoy the process. That's the only way we're going to do more of it. If we talk ourselves out of it, then we'll stop doing it. We just go back to square one, which is kind of ridiculous, right? Maybe it's not just ridiculous. I think, for sure, I wonder what you think. Again, everyone on stage, I wonder what you think. I think there's always that danger that when we fall off the wagon, we almost we don't go back to where we were. I think we're so disappointed in ourselves that we become maybe worse. We suffer more pain in our own misery. I know what I mean. Let's see, if we use dieting as an example, right? A lot of people go on diets. They do a diet for however long, and then they stop, and they're like, "Oh, thank goodness I've stopped doing that." And then they put on more weight than they were before, which just sounds a weird thing to happen, right? You'd have thought they lose more weight, but they don't. They gain more weight. Such is their disappointment at having fallen off the diet. That's just my take. Again, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. We do have to go sometime, but I want to keep you all night. Jay, I see you. Sherilyn, I thank you. We're connected already, but we need to have let's have a coffee chat, and I want to know what you do. I want to know what everyone does, right? Jay says he got a friend who walks around the dinner table for exercise. That's how he gets ready to go to the track or gym. No, he said getting ready to go to the track or gym can lead to an excuse. Right? It does what you're saying, sure. That 2-second thing. Do it now. Do it now. Do something now. That means walk around the table, and that's something, right?
Right. Or, well, like when you were talking about the fridge, which helped you drink more water, Andy. My wife's like, "Oh, you should get a fridge in your office so you can keep cold water." And I'm like, no, because right now I have a reason to get off my butt and walk down the stairs to fill my cup and walk back up. Alongside a daily walking habit, etc. But you're exactly right. I've seen it over and over and over again. you fall off the wagon, as you said. It's interesting you mentioned diet. You used a term that's used in 12-step programs, right? Falling off the wagon. But often the person who, like, they feel bad for failing, especially if they've had a longer period of success, and then they start like they're self-flagellating. They're like beating themselves up, like, oh, I'm such a failure. and then what how many times does a dieter go on a binge eat? A recovering alcoholic or a drug addict goes on a bender, and they go crazy with it to take away the pain of that guilt and shame they're feeling. And that serves nobody. Or, I had a friend who had gastric bypass surgery and was doing great, had lost so much weight, but didn't change the identity, and is now bigger than before they had the surgery.
Is that even possible? Clearly it is, right?
It is. I've seen it again. I was talking to a cardiologist from Japan. He's like, I just did a triple bypass on a patient, and I told him, you need to change your diet or you will die. He's like, I don't understand why they continue. And it has a lot of this, we beat ourselves up. We don't, our environment becomes our competitor, and we don't take on a new identity. We don't rewrite the code, and we fall into the old habits.
Within our powers to change, we must change our headspace first of all, my friend. Peter, I think I agree with you. I think in most things, even the habits, Jay mentioned consistency earlier. The only way we're gonna see a real change is consistency, doing the thing over and over until it becomes automatic, until it becomes a new behavior. That's the reality we live in. Whatever the issue with it, whatever the habit we're trying to change, so that means some say 21 days it takes, some say 30 days, some say longer. What I'm saying? But literally, we must be prepared to be the new person we want to be for a period of time and keep doing the right thing over and over and over until it becomes our default. That's the only way I can think of it. Of course, I love to learn more. Cyrus, you flashed your mic earlier and say, I don't want to ignore you. And Mike, I'll come to you after that. Then they'll probably start winding down and going home. Cyrus, are you still there?
Okay. Yes, I am. Yes. Sean, you are an inspiration, same as Annie. Thank you so much for everything you've shared so far. Your 2-second rule that you mentioned is very significant, and I have been. I've never thought of it. I've heard that 5-second rule that Robinson said, and for some reason these rules like this haven't been the focus of my attention, unfortunately. Maybe I need to focus on them a little bit more, or it's probably because my brain works in a different way. Like I go to satisfy a need, right? So because I feel the need to improve or do something for my business, and the outcome is really important to me, and because it is a part of my SMART goals and etc. So in 2024, my doctor told me you're overweight and you need to stop. You need to lower the number of cigarettes you're smoking every day. She asked me how many, and I said how many, and she said you need to reduce them, and I said, well, give me a week, I'll make a decision. So I decided to stop. I had to think about it, and The doctor said, well, you have to like reduce the number of maybe takeaways, takeouts that you eat, like less pizzas, less burgers. I said, you know what? It's my fault. It's not the takeaway's fault. It's not that burger place's fault. I buy them, right? I didn't get fat behind my back, okay, and I didn't get fat overnight. I didn't get fat overnight either, right? So I am sorry. I'm talking about myself. I think I'm allowed to say that. Then on 25th of Jan, 2024, I started my fashion brand, and it's on the same day that by the way, I stopped smoking on 25th of Jan 2024, right? So on the same day to make sure I am kind of memorializing that day, I started my company. I searched for a name, whendidyouKnow.com. I really love that name. When did you know? And it was taken. Somebody had taken it. I was extremely disappointed. I was like, why would someone take whendidyouKnow.com? Didn't they think of me? I would have wanted that someday. And perhaps it was me not taking action when I was supposed to, and somebody had took it. And then I realized, oh, I could do something else. It's a female fashion brand. So what female names do I know that rhymes with that? Wendy, that's one name. Juno, Juno. So whendidyouKnow.com, that changed in my head to whendidyouKnow.com, right? So that's where When Did You Know comes from, because the other brand name was taken, so I had to pivot. So then I made another change, which was I love my lounge, right? So, and then TV is in the middle of the room because it's a large room, and the sofa is within really good distance from the telly. And then I was like, I've been wasting my entire life focusing on this side of the television. So what should I do to improve things? I got a sofa and I put it behind the television. So now my day has two parts. Half of the evening I sit in front of the television and watch one part of whatever I want to watch, and the other half of the evening I turn the television off. I sit on the other sofa, which is behind the television. No distraction. I put my laptop there and I create my content. Ever since I did that, I got more clients. I finalized my story. I published it, self-published it, and I've created 2 more Instagram pages just because I changed this small thing. And that excuse that, it takes a while before my computer boots up. I stopped turning my computer off. I put it in sleep mode, and it's been a year and something that I haven't turned my computer off. I just put it in sleep mode. And so small changes, and they work, honestly.
They really do, my friends. It is the lesson today. The small steps lead to the big changes. That's a remarkable thing. That's what I'm saying. I talk about mindset because there are only a few small steps you have to take. But I take them, and I've seen my life change before my very eyes in a way that I never thought was possible. That's why I do this room. That's why I share what I share. Right? Now, Sean, look, you are the coach on stage, right? And I said, no one else, no other coach has come on stage. So please share with us. How can you help people? Because I can't help them beyond talking with them, at them, to them. But so how can you help people to be a better version of themselves and to drop these habits?
So my work with clients is, like we said, transforming your mind, shifting your beliefs, all the way, and not, stopping smoking or dieting or any of it. It's the fruit, right? As we said, if we don't get down to the root, then it comes back, right? It's like the weeds in our garden. If we don't pull them out by the root, they're going to come back. Unless you live in the tropics and you can rip them out by the root, they'll come back anyway. but you got to tend the garden. Yes, I work with them using techniques to get down into their identity, holding them accountable to their commitments, honoring agreements, starting with ourselves. I've actually got a community called Real Mastery Hub that I'm building, where it's brand new, so right now it's still free. Happy to have people join it and come and share. One of the first channels I put in there was share your wins, because just like when we post that post on social media and we get 10, 20, 30 likes, we feel nice. We get those happy chemicals. Celebrating your wins in a community where everybody can say, hey, good job. Like I posted in the comments for Cyrus, celebrate the heck out of that, being a non-smoker. Every day if necessary. Like, the people who are succeeding at kicking bad habits are the ones that are regularly celebrating it. Alcoholics Anonymous, you get these chips, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And if you meet anybody in those groups, they're really proud of those chips, because that's a new identity. Now, AA doesn't deal with the identity, because I've seen them stand up and they're like, hi, I'm Sean Michael, I'm an alcoholic. Well, we're kind of sticking in the old identity. So I work with them at the identity level. Let's reframe who you are at your core. And it's not rebuilding. It's not fixing, because you're not broken. It's about, let's clear the crap.
That's what people need to do, right? It requires brutal honesty. And as I mentioned, self-awareness earlier. And truly looking within. And we need to do. I think we have to become the people who do the work. Nikki mentioned transforming earlier, transformation. We are those people who do take these steps we need to take to become better people. That's how we're going to get there in the end. Whatever that means, I'm well aware that for all of us, I still meant everyone's got bad habits. Sure, even you have bad habits, right? We all do. We all do. We'll be better, right? We really can be.
I am still a smoker.
I've got a bigger tank than you, my friend. I got a bigger mod than you. I tell you that for nothing. I'm looking at it. So, look, I think it is important to understand how change happens. So understand what keeps us stuck in routines that we don't want to be in, and also understand what change really means. And that's hopefully that's what I hoped we have imparted today. Thanks to my guests, thanks to the people in the comments, thanks to everyone who's joined us. I can't thank you enough. Michael, if you want to say something before we go, Nikki, that's it. No, please take your chance.
Sure, I'll go ahead and go. Thank you so much. This has been another epic panel discussion. Annie, you do it very well. It's been a pleasure meeting you, Sean, and listen to everyone's contributions, and especially you, Michael, again, with your very transparent shares. And everyone, thank you so much. Have a great evening, and don't be afraid of transformation.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. Goodbye.
You are the star. Look, my friends, do connect to the superstars that we're lucky to meet on this platform. And like I say, Nikki is definitely one of those people. Now she has she tells me she's got a big announcement at the end of the month. So connect with her to find out what that thing is, because it's bound to be something amazingly huge, right? So do connect with her. And I'll say this about Sean's ways. I love his calmness. I love the clarity. In fact, when I do something, I get all excited. Sean's so calm in how he imparts his principles. He really, and he, believe you me, he gives people clarity about the topics they work on, about the steps they need to take, and about the journey that they're about to embark on. That's a remarkable skill. You know, as I see many coaches, Sean, and you know, maybe when you've had a good coach, you can tell one that doesn't really have, you know, even the basics. You know, because they can tell they're reading from a book. Now, but now you know, the depth of your conversations about these topics, I find it really amazing. I don't see that too often around me. You know, so look, this is my way of saying, son, now join Sean's program. At least have a look at it. Maybe you don't want to join, but have a look at it. Connect with him, have a look, and see if it's something that can benefit you or someone you know. And that's all I ask of you. And I say, if one person makes a change as a result of coming to my rooms, I'll take it. Michael, you've been quiet for a long, long time, but we found you again. Michael's thinking before he speaks. Oh no, unless we've lost your volume completely, you know, Michael. Because we can't hear you. It's not me, I don't think. No, it's not me. Do you want to try again, Michael? Oh yeah, that probably, I think his internet's playing up. So that leaves you, Cyrus. What's your last word today, my friend?
Oh, that sounds really, really sinister. Any last words? I didn't expect that, any.
The Grim Reaper's coming for you, right?
Oh, I'm only joking. So I was gonna say the power of changing habits is a very important thing. I agree with that. But something that that I thought we can't finish the session without mentioning is the power of association. Like, who is it that you spend most of your time with? And so basically, just to give you a rough idea of what I'm on about, whoever you are, as in whoever it is that is listening right now, right? Whether it's on rerun or it is live, remember this: your income is the average of the other 4 people that who are playing a significant role in your life. Could be a friend, could be your main couple of colleagues that you associate with during working hours or after working hours. You go out for a pint of lager or whatever. Or you go to the gym with. So add the income together plus yours divided by 5. That's your income. So in terms of that is just a measurable thing that I just mentioned. Income isn't everything, right? But level of success, your mentality, your level of happiness, how much happiness you experience in life, how much frustration you experiencing in life. So you rob off them, right? So as they say, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you, right? So that's what I'm going to finish on. I love you guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Well said. LinkedIn user. There's always a good time to join, right? You know, you can never join too late in my eyes. Who's LinkedIn user? Dr. Yvonne. So I'm going to book your diary tonight, madam. So I'm glad you joined us. Look, there's always the replay. It's always there. So please do watch it. I will share my link, my YouTube with you. I'll share my YouTube now. That way, if you want to watch it there. Because there's millions of other replays. All my replays are there, right? So please do watch on my YouTube. And then, like I always say, it saves me typing it to you, my friend. You know, watch the replay, like the video, comment on the video, and of course, if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That will give me the greatest joy in the world to have you subscribe to my channel. So now, thank you so much for joining us, Cyrus. Now, thank you for always being a star. You know, you really are. So, you know, everyone who shares, I'm always in awe because you are the geniuses in my network. And I can't thank you enough. You know, of course, everything you say, I take very seriously. So, thank you so much. Michael, you're back. Talk to us, Michael. Michael? Has already been muted, or are you still muted? Maybe we're just destined not to hear you today, Michael, right? Ah, that is so disappointing. Damn. Anyway, look, my friends, we do have to go. So for those who want to go to my YouTube channel, who might as well take my chance, right? I need more not YouTube people who stop. More watch hours, more subscribers. So please do engage my YouTube channel. I'm just posting the link now. Oh, an error occurred. I don't know what happened there. I know an error occurred on Facebook, I think. Hopefully, you can join. Copy and paste the link into your browser. I said I will post the link in my comments on the web page. Hopefully, you can go to my channel and do the right thing. For those who are there already, I see there's 3 people there. So please do comment, do like, do engage. And when you do all that, then just click on another video. Don't watch it, just click it and then let it play, right? It all helps. Sean, thank you so much, my friend. Now you made my day. You really have. I come on the stage today. Yeah, I can't believe you've kept quiet for so long. How have you done it? In an audio event, how did you stay quiet for so long?
It's my Nate. I don't know. The invisible man. Sometimes I feel like.
I always saw you. I was just dying to hear you, and they said now to know that you're such a genius at what you do. I feel blessed, my friend. Thank you so much, and I mean that every time I say so. Coach Ashley, if you're another one, I do want to hear from you sometime. I really do. Look, thank you so much, everyone. I'm back here again in 2 weeks' time. No, let me go back a bit. I have a book launch tomorrow for one of my clients' books, Sandra Bothe's book on meeting myself. If you can join us, that would be amazing. I mean, her book is going to be on sale for $1.99 tomorrow only. If you can buy a copy, it will contribute towards Sandra becoming a bestseller. That's my gift. That's what I work towards. So if you can join us, I'd be really grateful. And there's a prize draw. You might spend $1.99 and win the $25 prize. That prize draw. And if you can, that'd be great. I'll do my best to invite everyone who's here today. Hopefully you join us and then add to the conversation. Cyrus, you said something.
Oh yeah, I was going to say for those of us, those of you who haven't purchased the book that Annie published recently. Last year, not recently. Lessons we learned from COVID-19. You can see it in the background behind Annie. That is a very important book for those of us who want to know the truth about what happened during COVID-19 days in areas that you weren't there, right? So you learn stuff from that book. That's a phenomenal book. I love it, especially Annie's chapter. It's just brilliant. And Sean, I was just wondering, do you have any publication yourself? Have you published any books?
I actually have 2 self-published. One is a self-love journal, which is more what they call low content or no content. And the second one I published is Stronger Every Day, 30 Days to Unshakable Self-Worth. And it's a daily process of building your self-worth, exploring a lot of the stuff I teach and my own journey. I wrote the book that I needed, that I couldn't find.
Yeah, I know. I look forward to reading them. I've read such a book, and I was just wondering if I could give you that book so you could write an introduction of some sort on it, if it's something that you like. So I can send you a copy of it, and so you can have a look, because I have been offered a few suggestions, a few authors, but because it's a book that hasn't been published yet, and it is my first book. I published my second book. The first one is still being written, right? So yeah, I am really selective when it comes to that. So I find your style, the style that I really like and I really want, in that book, and I will send you a copy of that. Please have a read, have a look at it, and
For sure. And
tell
I
me
have
if
to
it's
say,
something that-
Cyrus, I have mic envy.
You are fantastic. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I will send you the Microsoft Word file, and once if that is something that is going to happen, it will be if it's meant to be, and that's the way I see it. And then we'll get Annie to publish it. So it's almost done, and we just need a good introduction on the book. Yeah.
All right.
you.
Happy to help.
Appreciate that.
I will say, please share the link to your books in the comments if you don't mind. It makes it easier for us. Many of us just lazy, right? That's one of our bad habits. But if you make it easy for us, we'll take that 2-second step, right?
Well, just like habits, when we remove the friction, I was working on my podcast interview with Miss Amalia, which publishes the 20th of May. And we were talking about that, that when you're posting online, you've got to make it friction free. Don't say, DM me, say, here's a link, go sign up.
Totally agree. I say, it's good to know that you are your books and information and content that we can buy. Resources, probably the better way to describe it. So, thank you so much. As Jay says, I kept listening to Annie's live events. That's a bad habit, Jay, and I became a host. Look, thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy your night. Hopefully, I'll see you tomorrow at Sandra's book launch.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Annie, for inviting. Welcome.
Bye, everyone.
Every step forward is a new beat to your drama. She's success with Global.Media.com and celebrate it with or without champagne or rum. She's success with Global.Media.com.